Welcome to Mercy and Truth Podcast. My name is Ernie. This is Jesse. I'm a pastor at Mercy Hill. He is one of our elders. This is a podcast coming from Mercy Hill Church, and the purpose of it is to equip, to empower, and form believers in order to walk and live and grow in the life that God's called us to live.
Yeah, and you'll hear us address a range of different topics from marriage, family, discipleship, culture, and even some stuff that we couldn't get to on a Sunday morning that we'll be able to address in a longer form podcast.
And we're going to try to get out one a month. So that's the goal. Tune in once a month for us. Thank you for being here. Cody Cline, welcome to the Mercy Hill Podcast.
Glad to be here.
This is the first one I think we've done.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And so I figured for the first one, we need to talk about the network that we're in.
Okay.
Because lots of people are coming to our church now. They don't know Iowa. They don't know the story of Cornerstone. They don't know they hear us talk about Salt Network. They know the conference. They know our college ministry is called Salt Company.
Yeah, but it's a family. Like, you want to know what's the family that we're a part of. What's it about?
That's right. It's really compelling, and it's actually something that drew us to Cincinnati, was being a part of this network. And so you're kind of an OG. You have been a part of the network since its conception, even before it. And so who better to talk to us about this? And so I just want to share first about like how I got connected with it. It was like 2018, went to what was called Hitchhikers then. Now it's called Multipliers at Ames, Iowa. Heard Troy Nesbitt talking about all of the things and Mark and them. And it's like I found a lost tribe. You know, I remember I met you guys and I was like, that's unbelievable. Me and you got connected later.
Yeah, and you were in Texas at the time, right? Doing college ministry at a great Bible teaching church and that. But what was it that you felt was missing, or what made it feel like that tribe for you? So
I've been annoying every lead pastor I had about, hey, we should plant churches near college universities, use them as a sending force. And then I found Salt Network, and I was like, wait, these guys are already doing it. They're resourced. They're excited about it. Like, they're doing it better than I'm thinking about doing it. Yeah. Let's just join the team. So got connected with Troy because I'd actually convinced Chris Cook, who's the planter in Bloomington, to do it.
Your buddy.
That's right. I was like, you got to go do this. And so he did it. Then he was pulling me along, and I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do this. And we got connected and moved to Cedar Falls, Iowa. Lived there for 2 years. Identified Cincinnati.
There's some stories we're skipping over that someday need to be told. I mean, the one simple one was you came to visit Iowa, Cedar Falls, Iowa, in particular, where we're at. That was February of 2019, and we were in the middle of, I didn't even know that this could happen. We were in the middle of a polar vortex, is what they called it. I think it was -40.
Yes.
With like -60 when you count wind chill, when you got off the airplane.
I remember you asking me, do I own a winter jacket? I said,
I thought about buying you one. I was going to gift you one as like a welcome gift to Iowa. And you're like, no, I've been like skiing before. And I'm like, that is a different, like, Colorado cold weather is different than what we've got going on here.
Absolutely.
That's just one of the stories, but that's how we met. I mean, I met you outside of the airport.
Yeah.
That was our first interaction on that cold day.
So I want to say this, like, the reason why I want to talk about the network is because not many people leave Texas, which, some people would be like, that's a good place to be at if you're doing church ministry, to go to Iowa and then move to the Midwest and plant. And so, Cody, tell us this vision of Salt Network and how it became and how it got started. Because I think that's the best way to introduce people to it.
So I mean, it's always fun trying to figure out what's the best place to start with the story of the Salt Network. But I think the best place to start is go back to 1987. That's when the Baptist Student Union at Iowa State University had an official name change, and the name Salt Company was kind of born. At that point, just a small student movement on the campus of Iowa State University. I mean, you're talking about a campus, middle of nowhere, very insignificant. And I would say, in a sense, an insignificant student movement. But roots there in 1987, that movement began to grow and eventually did something that at that point had, I don't know, it was pretty much unheard of, was a college ministry blossoming into a church plant. I mean, and what you essentially had is you had a Baptist church that had a lot of tradition and rich tradition. God had done tremendous work there, but a college ministry that was a part of their church began to outgrow and even in itself be bigger than the church in Ames. And so as these two things are kind of together, but a little bit in tension with one another, a vision of keeping things the way that they've been and continue to be a vibrant local church. And now we have a thriving college ministry and they're exploding. What do we do with this? The thought of, as a church in Ames, Iowa, would we actually plant another church in Ames, Iowa that would reach the next generation? I mean, it was a crazy concept, but that's where Cornerstone was born. That's 1994. Cornerstone is birthed. Troy Nesbitt is lead pastor. And you have a church that's born with, I think, 24 community members and 200 college students. Wow. And I think for most of the people at the church they were coming out of, they didn't think it would work. I mean, there's just, how do you even pay the bills with that type of a makeup? But that's the start of Cornerstone Church, which was birthed out of a movement within Salt Company. And Cornerstone is a vibrant local church doing great work in the community of Ames from 94 into the 2000s. I jump on staff in 2006, having been a part of Salt Company myself for some years in Ames. And then in 2010, Cornerstone plants its first church purposely to reach another campus.
Okay, so let's get the timeline
Take
here.
what we were doing in Ames and do it someplace else.
So in 1994, Cornerstone's planted. No dreams of planting a church.
No, for years, Troy even said, like, we're not a church planting church because he didn't want to lose focus on the local community. And then we even had some other initiatives there for a while. I was like, well, let's help plant churches in like every county seat in the state of Iowa. You know, so there's 99 counties. Let's plant a church in all 99 counties. And we were looking for fastest growing areas in Iowa to plant churches and all that. But there was something about it that just never
stuck. Fit. And so in 2010, you're on staff. What are you doing on staff? Who are you?
So in 2010, I was leading our high school ministry.
Okay.
And we start talking about planting a church in Iowa City, which was, for anybody in Ames, Iowa, was unthinkable. I mean, like you're talking about arch rival, like hated other university. But the Lord was calling us to something. And I think what was crazy was how quickly it felt so natural. I mean, we had tried other things in the past, or let's help plant a church in this town or that town. And it was like pulling teeth to get staff or members of our church to consider being a part of it. All of a sudden, we started talking about Iowa City, even as much animosity as there was between Ames and Iowa City as far as rival universities. The idea starts floating across staff. Hey, we're looking to plant in Iowa City. We've asked Mark Arendt to lead that church plant. And I think there was like 9 members on the Salt Company staff team at that time, which Mark was the Salt director. 7 of them raised their hand like, we'll move. I didn't care if there's a job involved. We'll move and be a part of that church plant. And then they threw it out to the students. And I can't remember what the initial number was of students that offered to go, but the final number ended up being around 75 students transferring or moving to Iowa City to help see this work established. And so it was then that we recognized we might be onto something here. And
now there's a funny story about that. Didn't that happen at the last Salt Company? And at this point, you were on Salt staff, I believe. Yes. And what did Troy Nesbitt say at the end?
Our Salt staff got gutted. I mean, that was to plant that church. Like our entire Salt Company staff pretty much just left.
Yeah.
I think there's about 1 or 2 people remaining. And so I was leading high school ministry at the time. And Troy asked if I would be willing to step over into the Salt Company side and be one of the replacement kind of team members. But yeah, we were in shambles. We were trying to find a director, somebody that would essentially kind of be my supervisor, and then we'd build out the rest of this team. And we got to the final Salt Company of the spring and didn't have a director identified.
And how big is Salt Company at this moment?
It's 650, 700 students. I mean, it's not an insignificant movement. And Troy goes on stage as the pastor of Cornerstone just to tell the students, hey, if I'm being honest, we don't have a SALT director. I don't know if we'll be able to find one. I think he even made the statement like, I don't even know if we'll have SALT company in the fall, or well, we probably will. We'll come back and find out. I mean, it was something almost as sloppy as that I remember sitting in the crowd being like, they're not coming back. Like, we just lost SALT company. Like, this is. And I'm here, and I know we're bringing in Drew Stevenson, and we're hoping to hire my friend Shane, and he was actually teaching that night as a guest communicator as part of his interview process. So it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. But the Lord blessed it in some wild ways. So that was 2010.
So 2010, we plant the church. Mm-hmm. All right, and then from planting that one church, when did the idea come of like we should plant several?
It's funny. Like, I think there was like talk around Cornerstone of like, why did that happen so naturally? But at the same time, Cornerstone, we were navigating some of our own growth challenges in reality. I mean, we had established some sites, like we were starting a multi-site and dabble in that world. And so we had a lot of things that were kind of calling for our attention and energies. But there was just something about what had happened in Iowa City that was exciting in a different way. And I think when you look back on it now, you kind of laugh at the SALT Network story and go, why did it take you all so long to figure it out? Like, God made you to reach college students and plant churches near university settings. Why did that take so long to figure out? And I don't have a great answer other than we're just maybe not that smart. I don't know. So, but it was 2010 that we planted in Iowa City. We planted then in Cedar Falls in 2012, and there's some other church plants in and around that time. But that one even further solidified. Okay. There's just something about that is so natural. You know, planting Cottage Grove down by Drake. There's something about planting churches that are multi-generational churches, but are intentionally trying to reach these unique mission fields called college campuses. And there are great ministries on a lot of these campuses, parachurch organizations like Crew and InterVarsity and a bunch of things in between. But we really wanted to be about a movement that kept the bride of Christ at the center, not at the peripheral, where students would be involved in a local church. They would gain a passion and a vision for God's desire within the church, that he's building his church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it, and how to invite them into that work and into that mission to reach then the nations through that. It began to come into greater clarity as Iowa City then got established. Then all of a sudden we see a movement on the campus of UNI, and that's where I'm at now, is in Cedar Falls, Iowa. You see a movement on Drake, and then we begin to plant out from there, and it just began to snowball. So 2010's the first church plant. There's church plants all the way through 2012 and 2013, 2014, 2015. And then we decide in 2016, let's bring these churches together that we've planted, most of it being out of Ames, and let's pool together our resources and bring together our collective energies and launch a network. I would actually prefer the language, just a family of churches that are coming alongside one another to do what none of us could do on our own, and to see this movement spread. We didn't know if it would be regional, nationwide, whatever.
What it was going to be at that point. 2016, we just say we know we're planting churches that are multi-generational, that love the campus and the city, essentially, or the campus and the community.
Yeah, so that's 2016, and then somewhere in there, right, a couple of years later, you're at a hitchhikers gathering.
Right, and I just want to circle around to one thing that you said that is, I think, really important to know about the SALT Network, is that there's a lot of college movements that you see that are just completely student-focused. And then there's a lot of movements that you see where there's community churches that love the campus, don't know how to reach it, so they're outsourcing it to another ministry organization that they're not connected with. And SALT Network says we're going to do both. We're going to love the community and we're going to love the campus. And we're not going to compromise on that. And we're going to figure out how to do it well. And we need to make sure. And what we found too, then you guys start looking around at universities, like, is this even needed? What have we been finding?
Yeah, I mean, God has always seemed to have a special place in his heart for the next generation, all the way to like Jesus and the disciples that he's working with were young men. And God has always seemed to delight to use college students to bring about great movements in the world. And so I'm grateful when I look at the rich history of vibrant student ministry and delight in the organizations that have been a key part of that. We recognize in the day and age that we're living in, there's a retreat taking place on the college campus. Churches, I would say, it's been decades now, have long lost their influence on campus. So when we go tour a new college town or whatever that we've not looked at before, we will typically find the same thing in every place that we go, right on the peripheral of campus. And it's true here at UC. You see it. Big church buildings, massive church buildings that were once vibrant gospel movements that had a vibrant student influence that are now empty. I mean, you got one here on your campus that's a Abercrombie and Fitch store or something like that, right?
T-Mobile.
Like,
they did Urban Outfitters and T-Mobile. They turned into bars too. Like doing that. Airbnbs.
And so you see that where it's like there was once a great movement where the churches were engaged on campus. It's just not there anymore. There have been great movements then of parachurch organizations on campuses. But now the day and age that we live, there is so much resistance in general on campuses toward basic Orthodox Christianities, the challenging of even is biblical inerrancy and what Bible teaches about gender or sexuality. Like, is it true? That I believe requires now something more robust than a collection of students coming together with a few staffers to say, hey, we're an organization that's about the gospel.
Right.
You need the strength of a multi-generational movement, a church with elders that are courageous to help fortify a work that is able to engage the campus and withstand the tide of culture, if that makes sense. And I can stretch this too far, but I believe that each individual, right, we know this, is gifted with particular spiritual gifts and is called to a particular work that builds up the kingdom. Every individual believer is filled with the Holy Spirit for that. I ask the simple question, is it possible that God does the same thing with a church? That he'll say, I'm gifting your church in a particular way to have this particular influence in the world. And I think the Lord has seemingly delighted to utilize our churches to do something that is surprisingly not being done.
Yes.
Really in much scale at any other part of the United States. And so that was the surprise to us. We thought there were others doing what we were doing in Ames.
And they're just not.
And there wasn't.
Like when we showed up to UC, 50,000 students, I couldn't find a church that had a college ministry and a college director or pastor.
Yeah.
There was, college churches full of college students, which were, but it's just college students. There were a couple of college ministries like Young Life, but there was not a church that we could find. And there's 70 to 80,000 college students in this city, and it just broke our heart. And I was like, how could that be?
Yeah. And it's not the vision for every church, but recognizing that there are some churches because of proximity, and now we are intentional with location and proximity. But if you are a church and you have a campus in your backyard, how can you not make that a primary mission field? And I get it. If you go after college students, they're transient. They're only going to be there a few years and they're gone. So you're going to invest a lot of energy to reach them, and they're only temporary.
Yes.
They're not going to pay the bills while they're here because they got no money. In fact, they're massively in debt. And generally, college students, they want to bring about change. They get excited about ideas and they want things done, and they want it done a particular way. And so you got to kind of change your preferences on like, what do we need to do to reach them and engage them and give them a voice? And so a church has to sacrifice certain things to be about that work.
Right.
But that's not the call for every church. But we want it to be the call for our churches, that we go, we think the sacrifice, the expense, that mission is worth it, because we believe the future of the world is young people, and particularly 18 to 22-year-olds that are bottlenecking in these college towns. If we can be purposeful to bring about a gospel movement in this location that reaches them, equips them, and then rides the natural momentum of the fact that they're already transient and here on their way to someplace else. If we can give a little bit of direction to where they get sent, that they plant themselves in the next environment purposely, now all of a sudden you've got a gospel movement that is dislodging students for the purpose of planting churches. And that's where this flywheel begins to pick up momentum. And man, we have seen the Lord do that now in the past 10 years for sure.
Yeah. One of the most compelling things I think I've heard was like from Brent Haperkamp, who is an elder at Cornerstone. And he was talking at an event, and I heard him. He said, "Hey, somebody asked me the question, why do I invest so heavily into the network?" And he says, "There's not that many opportunities to invest in something that you think is actually going to change the world." Yeah. And so, and on that, we talked about, hey, we're just planting churches. That's where we're at in the narrative. At some point, though, Cody, we got to a vision that we've now landed. And what is that vision for Salt Network?
Yeah, it's 403.
403.
So 403 universities in the United States have a student population of over 10,000 students. Okay. So we'll go anywhere where there's students, but we're particularly looking at those 403 environments where there's 10,000 students or more. Mm-hmm. And we want to see a church, a vibrant, multi-generational church on every one of those campuses or near every one of those campuses that are reaching students and have a salt company and a heart that is, I love this language, right? We are not a church of college students, right? Any environment that's only 18 to 22-year-olds that call themselves a church, run from that environment. Yeah. We are not a church with college students, as if like, well, we have a high school ministry, we got a junior high ministry, and we got a college ministry. Right. Like we are a church for college students where the collective mission of this multi-generational work here, this church, is that we want to make sure that this church doesn't die with the gospel on our backs, but how do we get the gospel to those students in particular and then train them up and empower them to lead the church into the future?
Right. So it's like, and we want to focus on them because they're the goers. Yeah. Right. They're the ones that are graduating, have an opportunity to go establish the next church plant. So that we're at 2010 when we plant our first one. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? 2016, the network exists. Yeah. All right. And then now, present time.
10 years later.
10 years later. That's right. Since the network started. How many churches do we have right now?
We got 40 churches in the network. Praying that there'll be 5 new churches launched here in 2026. We have 7 churches that we're hoping to launch in 2027. And then currently I'm working with, I think we're looking at somewhere around 7 to 8 churches already on the kind of the docket for 2028. And so we'll be looking at somewhere around 20 new churches in the next 2.5 years.
Yeah. So next 2.5 years, we could be north of 60.
40 to 60, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so we're not far from getting to 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty exciting time. And it's
not 10%, still, that's 25%.
We're still at the front end of this whole thing. I mean, this movement is still in its infancy, but it's picking up speed at a rate that's kind of far exceeding any thought or dream or prayer that we had a decade ago.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now we're planting, like, first I know we started planting Midwest, but now we're planting anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, nationwide.
That's unbelievable.
I think this next round of church plants here in 2026, you've got a church plant in Austin, Texas. You've got one in Santa Barbara, California. You're talking Huntsville, Alabama, Kansas City, Missouri. And which one am I forgetting here? Oh, it's going to drive me nuts. I'm forgetting somebody's feelings are going to be hurt out there because I love them all. Oh, Corvallis, Oregon.
There you go.
And so that's the 5 for 2026. So yeah, you can see it's kind of all over the place. Yeah. And now dreaming about places like Boston's another one that's kind of on the radar. Maybe another one here in California sometime in the near future, and everything in between. So pretty exciting.
That's amazing, man. We were talking about some numbers last night, and I heard the number 28,000 students went to a kickoff, but.
Yeah, I don't know that number off the top of my head. I know right now there's about 17,000 students that attend Salt Company on a weekly basis.
Okay.
So a given Wednesday, Thursday night, I think there's even a couple Salt Companies that meet on Tuesday, like midweek gathering, somewhere around 17,000.
And it was like around 8,000 students that went to the conference this year. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you work with Ryan, who's at the network, and he loves projections.
Yeah.
and he has projections over the next 5-10 years, though, something like that. Do you know any of those numbers, like what that's going to look like?
I think the one that to me is the most compelling because it makes it very tangible. I mean, I go back to the 403, but if we continue to plant at the rate that we are, and right now you got to understand, like the network is in its infancy. I mean, we've got 40 churches in our network. 12 of those 40 have planted a church.
Wow.
4 churches over the next year will plant a church for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number that I watch the most, is how many sending churches do we have?
Yeah.
Because that's what causes that exponential part of the curve. Because now you have more churches that are planting, then the more churches that are planting all the time, the more churches you're starting to launch and all of that. And you're starting to see 3rd and 4th generation planting taking place within our network. And so mathematically, what we see is if we keep just at the trajectory that we are with this just increase in sending churches, we may see the 403 from a mathematical standpoint somewhere in the next 18 to 19 years.
Wow.
Which for me, what feels tangible is I'm in my early 40s. I look at that, I'm like, you're telling me that by my 60s, we're going to be able to celebrate 403 campuses with a vibrant church, reaching that campus. That's insane.
That's unbelievable.
And I then begin to wonder, like, well, then what are we going to do? But let's stay about this at this point. But to think that in our lifetime we could see this work. That's what Brent's talking about when he's like, very rarely do you have an opportunity to invest yourself into something that you believe is generally going to change the world. Like, what will the Lord do? I mean, we've seen what he's already doing with 40 churches that are active, and not just in work nationally. I mean, we're sending, I think, close to 500 students overseas this summer for global work. So, I mean, it's casting a vision for students beyond even just national church.
It's like all of a sudden you're going 10 times that amount, because we're at 10% now. And it's like, of that 403 number, just about, you're going 10 times that, 10 times all those things, if not even more, because of how it just keeps spinning.
And that's always been the story. When God sparks a movement, he generally sparks the movement among college students. And then they go about and change the world. And so this talk of revival that we have in our day and age, it's there. Because God's doing a special work. And it's hitting at an incredible time, because we're also seeing on college campuses a bit of a turn that maybe 20 years ago, college campuses were really dark places and it was hard to penetrate with the gospel. Where we sit today, that is not the case. You now have 18 to 22-year-olds that are the most religious, spiritual generation we've seen in America in decades, maybe even generations and centuries. So, I mean, we're talking about a group and an age that is wide open for the gospel, is eagerly receiving it. And here we are at the forefront of this movement to reach campuses, and it's all colliding in this moment that we live.
It's so crazy to me too, as we meet other pastors and we've met other people, like, the older generations, like, they feel so down about the campus, and we're just like, how do you do this ministry? It's like, this is the easiest ministry in the world. Like, God is doing something special. We've just been like testing the soil, and this is where it's fertile and things are ready to grow, and this is the good soil. Yeah,
if you're in that demographic of people that when you think about college campuses, you get discouraged. You get depressed about it. You look at the next generation, you've given up hope. I'm telling you, you're living with an outdated narrative. It's just not the case. I have more hope for this next generation and for the future of the world and the gospel work, because what we are seeing is unprecedented gospel work on the campuses and an eagerness among this next generation for all that Jesus has for them. And so there's hope. There's a lot of it. And if you're not in that spot, you are discouraged. Like, I'm telling you, just come to one of our network churches then. On a Sunday morning or a Thursday night.
You will be
encouraged.
You
will see it. You will see it. So
and the crazy thing too is that if you talk to those people, like, the one thing that gets us excited about, and this is the story of Mercy Hill Church is the story of just about every one of our church plants, is that if you come to Mercy Hill Church, about a third of the people in that room, maybe a bit more, they became Christians. at our church. So it's not gathering the college
Yeah.
Christians. It's not grabbing other people from churches, but whether they're city side or they're campus side, like those people they're new believers that have just followed Jesus. And that's the most exciting thing. And when you start talking about those numbers and those people where we're going, it feels like revival's right around the corner. It feels like God is going to do something special. And it really doesn't have anything to do with us. Like, I mean, what I love about it too is this didn't come about like somebody planning this since they were 15. Like, we just stumbled into this.
Yeah.
It was like, let's just be obedient to what Jesus is doing. And he just keeps telling us the next step. And it is just exciting to watch.
Yeah.
So I got two more questions for you. One is, you've started taking on some hours, part of network staff, because you are a pastor at a church and a lead in that area, leading with Jake. And then, so what is your job? What are you doing? What's the center of that? And then the second question is, what would be your charge to Mercy Hill Church? Like, hey, this is what I want you guys to know. This is what you should do. This is what it would look like to participate in this.
So first off, my role, if you don't know me, I'm a pastor. I'm one of two lead pastors. So we're a co-lead model at Candeo Church in Cedar Falls, Iowa. So Jake and myself share the lead pastor roles. We've got a pastoral team of about 14 of us that lead the church there. And God's done a tremendous work. We were planted out of Cornerstone in 2013 with a desire to reach the campus there at UNI, University of Northern Iowa, and see God bring about a great work. And we've seen it, and it's continuing to exceed all that we could ever ask, dream, or imagine. And so there's no better job than being a pastor of a local church. Yeah. And so I love what I get to do. A year ago or so, I was approached by the network to kind of make a simple ask, but it was a big ask for a lead pastor. Hey, would Candeo be willing to let you set aside a day a week to work for us, taking some of the things we were doing as a local church and figure out how to bring that kind of to the network as far as structure? And so,
because what was Candeo doing better than most?
I wouldn't say better. I mean, we were we now as a church were about 12 and a half years old. We have planted 4 churches ourselves, and then 2 of the churches we've planted have planted a church. So we've got 2 grandbaby churches, we call them, and we've got 4 church plants, so 6 total. That's a neat story that God has done, and we're very purposeful in how we plant. I can be a systems and structures guy if there's a reality to that. I think just at my heart of hearts, like I'm just a shepherd. And what I've always wanted is that as we plant churches, that we're very intentional on how we prepare a planter and the team that is going out with that planter to plant, and then that we care well for them throughout the planting process, because it's hard. It's hard work. And there's a lot of churches in our network that have looked at how Candeo has done that with intentionality and said, can you just give us a playbook? Like, how do we do that? And that's been humbling. So as the network grows, the need for kind of that playbook, that clarity, just grows as well. So my title, it's a very fancy title with the network, I am the director of church planting.
Okay.
And I think most people would look at a network that's planting churches and say, you just now hired somebody for that job. Again, we started so small that we had enough relational connection that we were able to pass along ideas very naturally. But as we've gotten bigger and it begins to scale out, like I said, 40 churches, 12 of those churches have planted a church, 4 are about to plant their first church. And those 4 are looking at the 12 going, can you help us do this? And I've become the person that's kind of the connector between the 12 and the 4. Gotcha. That I'm taking all of the best practices from the 12 and I'm trying to package them and pass them along to the 4. Gotcha. And give them kind of a roadmap on how to do this and to do it really, really well. And my hope is that as I make that roadmap available, it actually allows us to get more and more of our churches that haven't sent a church yet, haven't planted a church yet, to become a sending church. So that kind of leads into my answer to number 2. Should I just keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
If you're a part of the Mercy Hill family or the story in any way, shape, or form, you got to know this. You're 4.5 years old as a church. That's still baby stages.
Yes.
And what the Lord has done here, I know, Ernie, like you're a dreamer and such. So I'm sure in your mind, there is still this gap that exists between what you had hoped for and what is reality. I mean, that's in every visionary's world. And that's the stuff that puts fire in your belly and keeps you moving. But I just don't want anybody to forget, you included. What the Lord has done here is
Yeah.
an absolute miracle of grace.
Mhm.
You have a beautiful, healthy, vibrant local church here. And one of the great gifts you've got is not just great membership and people. Like I'm hanging out with your elder team the other night, and I'm like, this is an incredible gift to a church family. And I think you guys have some of the best elders across the entire network. And so you've got healthy leadership, you've got a great staff team, you've got awesome people. You've established yourselves here in Cincinnati. You're reaching the campuses of UC and Xavier, and probably even got some Northern Kentucky students coming over. And I mean, like some exciting stuff. So this is where we say in the network, you move from being a church plant to a healthy and established church, which that's kind of the category you're in, is healthy and established. The next thing I would call for you to pray over is, how do we move from healthy and established to becoming ascending church? And that now gets scary. But I think that this is perfect, because I was actually just talking to one of your elders the other night, and he's like, we've now moved into this building. We've got a beautiful sanctuary. You got padded pews. And he goes, how do we make sure our people don't get too comfortable?
Right.
And I was like, well, you could take the pad off the pews. Like, that's one option. We kind of laughed about that. But I'm like, the way that we've kept ourselves young as we've been planting churches is you start planting churches.
Yeah.
You keep the vision in front, and you start taking people that you love, and you start encouraging them to go to help see something else established.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually doesn't weaken you locally. That just continues to fuel greater vision, and people see that and they want to be a part of that work and movement. And so I'm not trying to be pushy.
No.
This is not my job. I don't get paid to do this.
No, I'm loving it, man.
And I'm not even saying this should happen in the next year or 2 years. It's just for Mercy Hill, for the Mercy Hill family, that's the thing that I'm looking at y'all praying and going,
Right.
God has put Oxford, right? Miami University,
45
just up the
minutes
road, right? Dayton's not too far away, and all these other places in between.
State.
These are campuses where there are students that are going to step onto that campus next year as freshmen. And if we don't plant there in the next 4 years, they will graduate not having an opportunity to be a part of a salt company and a movement like what we've got here. And
That's correct.
we want to see that changed at some point. And so,
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of why we planted here. Me and Laura located this place because, one, we love Cincinnati. We saw the need in the city and on the campus, but also the amount of universities around. That's like, we have been dreaming about, when will we plant our first church, and then our second, and our third, and our fourth. And heard one person say, it's one of the pastors network, I can't remember their name. So once they do, they'll, maybe if they hear this, they'll be, that was me. Yeah. But they said, you take the church out of the gym, but never take the gym out of the church. Like that mentality of, we're here on a mission, we're here to reach a people, and we're here to do the building of God's kingdom, and nothing is below us, and everything is available to God. What do you want us to do? And so that's a prayer that our elders are praying and thinking about, and we even talk to our members about it. It's exciting to go, this is what we want to go to, and these are the challenges in front of us.
yeah.
So, well, Cody Cline, thank you for spending some time with us, and it took a little while to set it up, but
No, thanks for pulling me in. I love this conversation, man. This is stuff you and I talk about all the time.
Yes.
So hopefully it's beneficial for somebody else to listen into.
I think it is. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, that's the end of our first pod, dude.
All right, let's go.